Moya, Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the graduation ceremony of Rhodes University. Kindly may I have your attention for a few preliminary remarks. No flash photography is allowed during the ceremony, as this interferes with the official photographers. Please switch cell phones off or onto silent. Please allow the dean to read the names of each graduate clearly before applauding. Please respect that the event is both a joyous and dignified occasion. You are requested not to shout or scream at any graduate crossing the stage in a manner that is disrespectful. As far as possible, you are requested to remain seated throughout the ceremony. Graduates and guests are reminded that you are not to leave the auditorium until the ceremony has ended and the academic procession has left. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please remain calm. Take time now to identify the exit points and signs closest to you. Please note that the ushers, identifiable by the purple sashes and lanyards with the word usher on them, will assist with directions. The security staff in uniform outside the venue will also direct you in the case of an emergency. stand for the academic procession.
The Chancellor, the Honorable Justice Lexim Party, the Chairperson of the Rhodes University Council, Judge Gerald Bloom, and other members of our council, our honorary graduate, Professor Janet Cherry, the University Public Orator, distinguished Professor Paul Maylam, Deputy Vice-Chancellors, Deans, Acting Registrar, Heads of Academic Department and Directors of Administrative Divisions, Academic and Support Staff, President and other members of the Student Representative Council, proud parents, guardians, siblings and friends of our graduates, honored guests, and most important of all, our graduates. It is a singular honor for me to welcome you all to the third of 6 autumn 2023 graduation ceremonies of Rhodes University. On behalf of our Chancellor, the University Council, and the entire Rhodes University community, I offer our warmest and proud congratulations to each one of you, our graduates, on your graduation today. Your path to this glorious moment might have been long, difficult, and circuitous. Indeed, for many, it is neither straight nor smooth. You have made it, and well done. We applaud and commend those of you who are first in their family to earn a university degree. This is without a doubt a truly proud and special moment for you and your family. I wish to call out for special recognition the local Makhanda graduates, more especially those who have come through our university's intervention to improve the quality of learning and teaching in the local public schools. Thanks to the sterling work of Community Engagement Office, GADRA, Mrs. Margie Keaton, and Dr. Ashley Westerway, significantly more young people of Makhanda are able to gain admission to Rhodes University than ever before. This year, a total of 50 graduates who will be receiving their qualifications have come to Rhodes University through GADRA and the bridging program we established in 2017. 41 of these students are receiving their bachelor's degree, and 9 will be receiving a postgraduate qualification. A fabulous achievement indeed. A special shout out goes to all the members of the Student Representative Council who are graduating this year. We are immensely proud of each and every one of them. Our hearts and thoughts go out to the families of our students who passed on in the course of their studies and whose graduation ceremony this would have been. We honor their memory and will always treasure the time we were privileged to share with them. Dear graduates, you'll be the first to acknowledge that you did not reach this important and joyous milestone in your life entirely on your own. No one accomplishes something as significant as this on their own. The old adage, it takes a village to raise a child, is as true today as it has always been. We extend our heartfelt congratulations to your family members, partners, friends, guardians, and all those whose loving sacrifices, constant encouragement, and unfailing support have sustained you throughout your years of study at Rhodes. Your graduation today is their just reward, and they deserve a thunderous applause. We also acknowledge with much appreciation and gratitude the role played by your lecturers, tutors, lab technicians, cleaners, cooks, mentors, wardening and support staff in creating a rich and supportive intellectual, social, and physical environment conducive to your personal growth, development, and academic success. We extend our warm and heartfelt congratulations to the 5 recipients of the highest honor, the honorary degree. They are the Honorable Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, Professor Janet Cherry, who we will celebrate shortly, Honorable Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga, Professor Deborah Roberts, and Professor Helen Rees. Their personal journeys, selfless sacrifices, courage of their conviction, and achievements in public life and distinction in some field set them apart from others and serve as an inspiration worthy of emulation by all of us. Dear graduates, you have received an excellent education from one of the finest universities in the world. With your Rhodes University education, you can face the future with utmost confidence, courage, and conviction. But always remember that the Rhodes University education you have received is not for your sole or private benefit. You are expected to use it to advance the greater common good. Your graduation today takes place at a particularly challenging time in the 29-year history of our young constitutional democracy. Our nation is at a crossroads. We have lost our direction, we have lost our way, and above all, we have lost our moral compass. We have elevated to positions of leadership and responsibility some people of questionable moral and ethical character, people who have no sense of the difference between right and wrong, just and unjust, fair and unfair, ethical and unethical, occupy positions of power and influence. The noble qualities and values of personal integrity, honesty, humility, compassion, respect for each other, fairness, empathy, selfless dedication to a common good, and willingness to put others first, that were so beautifully exemplified by President Nelson Mandela, have given way to moral depravity, untrammeled greed, rampant corruption, venality, deceit, profligacy, and duplicity. There is a growing and palpable impatience, disillusionment, and disenchantment with the social, economic, and political state of our nation. All around us, we see pervasive and debilitating poverty and deprivation, existing alongside obscene and unbridled opulence, and vulgar and ostentatious display of ill-gotten material wealth. State-owned enterprises have been hollowed out and are teetering on the brink of collapse. And this is most graphically exemplified by ESCOM and its interminable power crisis. In an 874-page report, the State Capture Commission has painstakingly documented how some state-owned enterprises conspired and colluded with some private companies to loot our resources for personal gain. Sadly, more than 80% of our children cannot read for meaning in any language, nor can they calculate with accuracy by grade 4. Do these young people have a future in our society? And what kind of a future awaits them? There are concerted efforts calculated to malign, discredit, and delegitimize institutions of our constitutional democracy. The very foundational principles of a constitutional democracy are under fierce assault. And the very idea of a constitutional democracy is being intensely challenged, even by those who took an oath to obey, observe, uphold, and maintain the Constitution and all laws of the Republic. We are on a ruinous path. We are on a perilous path. This is not the country nor is it a society we had imagined when the struggle against the apartheid system was prosecuted. This is a time for a pause and a deep reflection, a time to act in defense of our constitutional democracy, a time for accountability, and above all, a time for leadership. All these challenges notwithstanding, we should never allow apathy, despair, cynicism, and despondency to take root in our society. We cannot afford to lose hope. We cannot afford not to imagine a better society. And this is the significance of your graduation today. Hope, optimism, and a promise of a better tomorrow. Allow this hope and optimism to jolt you to act with courage, conviction, and boldness to make a positive change in our society. Young people like you have always been a catalyst for change in this country. I have great confidence in you and in your ability to lift our country out of the abyss into which it has descended. You see, in a democracy, ordinary citizens are the last line of defense against any uncaring or tyrannical government. Those of you who have had the privilege of higher education carry a particular responsibility, a duty, an obligation to lead with integrity and become the voice of the voiceless. As graduates of the university where leaders learn, you have so much to offer our ravaged society and broken world. Armed with the quality education you have received from this fine institution and guided by our values of social justice, empathy, kindness, integrity, honesty, compassion, civility, and human solidarity, you can make a difference. You can pull this country away from the path of anarchy and destruction. There will be obstacles, there will be setbacks, and there will be mistakes and failures along the way. But you must learn from these and be resilient and resolute in your commitment to serve our society and humanity. Never for a moment doubt your capacity to make a positive change. The education you have received from Rhodes University has prepared you for this. Never allow the fear of failure to drive you into the safety and placidity of inaction. You are more than equal to the challenges that will come your way. In the 6 graduation ceremonies of autumn 2023, a total of 1,849 students will receive their degrees, diplomas, and certificates. Of these, 1,124, or 61%, are undergraduate bachelor's degrees, and 725, or 39%, are postgraduate degrees, postgraduate diplomas, and postgraduate certificates. Of the 725 postgraduate students, 69 will be receiving their master's and 23 doctoral degrees. I must indicate that we have another special graduation ceremony in October, which is exclusively for master's and doctoral graduates. 65% of the graduating students are female students. Malbongwe. Malbongwe. Igama lamakhosikazi. Masibong in Bogota. And 11% are international students. With your graduation this morning, you join a special community of our alumni. extraordinary people who are making remarkable contributions and leading change in many and diverse fields of human endeavor. We will expect no less from you. We welcome you to this special and ever-growing community with whom you share a deep affection for this great university. In the years to come, we will follow your growth, development, and success as a professional with keen interest, and we will applaud you for the honor and credit you bring to your alma mater. May you look back on this glorious day of your graduation with great pride and warm memories, and may it serve as an inspiration and a springboard towards better and exciting things for you in life. At the end of this ceremony, when you are reunited with your loved ones, please give them a bear hug and whisper these words in their ear. Thank you for all that you have done for me. We wish you much success, happiness, and fulfillment in the years ahead. Above all, we wish you discernment and moral courage to serve our society and humanity with humility, honesty, and integrity. To all of you, Mazal Tov. Asante sana, Nkosi, Kyalibucha, Nyabonga, Kyalibua, Lolibua, Vielen Danken, Nyachokoza, Obrigado, Inkom, Shukran, Merci beaucoup, Tante Grazia, Baya Danke, Bolsha es possible. Thank you very much.
It goes without saying that one of the most pressing challenges facing the country today is to alleviate urban poverty by bringing development to impoverished townships and informal settlements. An even greater challenge is to bring development that is sustainable, having proper regard for the environment. One person wholly engaged in addressing this dual challenge is Janet Cherry, Professor of Development Studies at Nelson Mandela University. In recent years, this has been her major focus of attention. But if one looks back at her career over the past 4 decades or more, one cannot but be struck by the remarkable range and extent of her many involvements. She stands out as a scholar cum activist of the highest order, expertly and admirably combining in-depth research with thoroughly committed political and community engagement. Her activism goes back a long way to her early youth. Growing up in a family committed to social justice, both her parents active in opposing apartheid. Enrolling at the University of Cape Town in 1980, very soon volunteering to work as an adult literacy teacher at the Crossroads settlement. In the process, learning to speak isiXhosa and becoming aware of the plight and need of residents. In 1982, being recruited into the underground ANC, and after graduating the same year, working full-time as Secretary General of the National Union of South African Students, NUSAS. Her involvement in the NUSAS Wages Commission, a foundation for her lifelong commitment to the rights of workers. Then in 1984, came her move to Port Elizabeth at a time of rising political turmoil across the region and the country, with townships in rebellion and government repression hardening. During these turbulent years, Janet's activism was courageous and wide-ranging, establishing the Eastern Cape Adult Learning Project and teaching literacy to trade union members, setting up a crisis information centre in the city to help search for missing persons and obtain legal assistance for detainees. In 1984, helping to form the Port Elizabeth branch of the End Conscription campaign. In the late 1980s, working as a researcher for IDASA, the Institute for a Democratic Alternative for South Africa. Then, in 1989, joining a delegation that met with the ANC leadership in Paris. This activism came at considerable personal cost. Janet being detained by the security police on a number of occasions, briefly in 1981 and 1984, for 3 weeks in 1985, a lengthy spell of several months in 1986-87, 2 months of which were in solitary confinement. In November 1986, adopted by Amnesty International as Prisoner of the Month. Then there was the intimidation, a rock thrown through her windscreen while driving, entailing hospitalization, several death threats, assaults by right-wing thugs, her car tires slashed at least 10 times. What stands out in this courageous, tireless, fully engaged career is a remarkable ability to combine activism, scholarship, research, and teaching. Lecturing in politics here at Rhodes in the early 1990s, teaching at Nelson Mandela University, first in the sociology department, and then since 2005 in the development studies department. Her research activities have been wide-ranging, working for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 1996-97, involved in the drafting of its final report, undertaking research for the Human Sciences Research Council, dealing with such themes as communal land rights, gender equality, women in South African history. Serving as a research consultant for organizations such as the Foundation for Human Rights and the International Center on Nonviolent Conflict. There are at least 50 publications to her name, including a book on Umkhonto we Sizwe, with another soon to appear on KwaZakele, which was the subject of her Rhodes PhD thesis. This work on KwaZakele says much about Professor Cherry's involvement in local communities. This, her current research interest, in which she addresses critical questions. How can residents of informal settlements have an improved quality of life without endangering the environment? Can informal settlements on the urban periphery be sustainable socially, economically, and environmentally? A pilot project centered on 2 such settlements at Seaview in Nelson Mandela Bay has been initiated to address these questions. A project in which the researchers are actors in the development process, with community members also forming part of the research team. Various recommendations have been presented, among them the provision of community-owned renewable energy through a combination of solar, wind, and biogas, water harvesting, generating economic opportunities for community members, findings that have enormous potential for transforming informal settlements across the country. A number of postgraduate students have worked under her supervision exploring these themes: socially owned renewable energy, food sovereignty, land and agricultural conservation. Students conducting such research not only in South Africa, but also in Ethiopia, Rwanda, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. These deep, intense involvements are guided by Professor Cherry's belief that it is important both to understand the world and to bring about change. And, she says, we do this through the combination of intellectual inquiry and social proactivism. Her life's work exemplifying that combination. There are some ways to disengage from this remarkable range of academic and activist involvements. Living on a small holding on the outskirts of Nelson Mandela Bay with her longtime partner Ken, keeping horses, bees, chickens, and exploring the mountains and coastline on foot or on horseback. Janet Cherry already has to her name a PhD and an Old Rhodian Award from this university. Today, it is a well-deserved honorary doctorate. Awarded to a courageous activist who engaged fearlessly in anti-apartheid activism in the 1980s, who has sustained a deep-seated, long-standing commitment to human rights, for which she was given the Reebok Human Rights Award some years ago, a teacher driven by a concern to impart skills to others, whether they be students, workers, trade unionists, or community members. A scholar of considerable repute whose work has ranged across a number of disciplines: history, politics, sociology, environmental and development studies. Work which makes a significant contribution to some of the most critical issues facing South Africa today. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to request you to confer on Janet Cherry the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
Chancellor of Rhodes University, the Honourable Judge Lex Mpati, and Vice-Chancellor Professor Sizwe Mabizela, Chairperson of Council, Judge Gerald Bloem, and members of the University Council, the Executive Management, the Deans, the academic, administrative and support staff of the University, the President of the SRC, Ms. Avukleni Chala, fellow graduates and family members, students and friends of the University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and also distinguished Professor Paul Maylam, who introduced me. Thank you very much. Much as I'm delighted to be acknowledged by such an award, I'm overwhelmed by a strong feeling that time is running out. Far from being satisfied with a lifetime's work, I feel that I have not achieved nearly enough. Time is running out for me personally, with only a few years left to make a difference to our society. But far more worrying is that time is running out for all of us, not just in South Africa, and not just for us as human society with all our failures. I recently came back from a trip to Nepal, where the glaciers are melting. As I flew back home, there were more devastating floods in Mozambique, in Malawi, and in Port St. John's in the Eastern Cape. We are responsible not only for each other as human society, but for other sentient beings, and indeed for all life, for forests, and for the biodiversity that is being lost as I speak here. However, now is not the time for cynicism, nor is it the time for protest. Some argue that we have run out of time already, facing the gravest challenge of the past 200 years. It is a challenge to all of us as engaged intellectuals, to which we must respond. At the same time that climate change is a grave threat, it necessitates a transition to a different society, a different economy. This is an opportunity to which we as engaged intellectuals can and must respond. We have the space and the position to explore alternatives, to put forward new models, to envision the future. I remain convinced that we do have answers to the great challenges that climate change poses, as well as answers to social injustice on a global scale and to the obscene inequality in our own society. Our role as academics is to research and test these solutions. Our role as activists is to convince those in power that change is not only inevitable, but is a necessary and positive opportunity for society. We have to, as is said, think globally and act locally to ensure that the future is both sustainable and equitable. One of the solutions that we are piloting in Nelson Mandela Bay through the Transition Township Project is community-owned renewable energy through township neighborhood cooperatives, which feed electricity generated from PV solar into the municipal grid, thus contributing to a just energy transition. Another solution that we should be exploring further is at the sub-regional level. Climate change does not acknowledge national borders. We need to build a resilient and integrated regional economy, inclusive, and dealing with labor migration as an integral part of our economy rather than a problem, rather than dealing with it as xenophobia. We need to use climate-smart agriculture for regional food sovereignty, renewable energy, and green industrialization for energy democracy. Things are simply moving too slowly. One of the quotes that I lived by from when I was 19, when I got involved with what Paul Maylam described, was to know and not to act is not to know. This is a saying of the Neo-Confucian philosopher Wang Yangming, who promoted the doctrine of the unity of knowing and acting. In another quote that I've attempted to live by, Carlos Christo, who was a prisoner of conscience, said the following: "We are free only when we commit ourselves to the risk of history, when we decide to intervene in reality in such a way that it will be transfigured by our actions." So my philosophy, as reflected in these quotes, has not really changed over the past 5 decades now. What has changed is the challenge that society faces. We can only act in response to what faces us here and now. And J.R.R. Tolkien wrote in his famous Lord of the Rings, and I quote, other evils there are that may come. Yet it is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the succor of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till. What weather they shall have is not ours to rule. So lastly, among the many people who have accompanied me on this long journey, I would like to acknowledge a few people locally. I can't acknowledge everybody, but I wanted to acknowledge my friend Shepherd Marty, who is an academic here at Rhodes University now, who influenced my life of activism and intellectual inquiry from when I was 19 years old. And we've both ended up as having an academic career. And Pila and Kai, another organic intellectual from Makanda. And also, very importantly, Professor Roger Southall, who was professor here of politics, who took a risk on me by offering me a lectureship back in 1992. And Professor Richard Haynes, who was also at Rhodes University at the time, and who drew me back into academia in Gqeberha. And also, I would just like to acknowledge the late John Daniel, Marion Lacey, Rokajulu, all three of them liberation movement activists who were intellectuals who contributed academically to the politics department at Rhodes University, and who obviously were influential, enormously influential on me in my early academic career. And lastly, my late father, Professor Robin Cherry, who was a physicist, but who had a love of poetry and a strong social conscience. And thank you to them all, and thank you to you for your support over the years.
Ms. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Social Science on the following candidates: Mawande Adam, Tulisa Tule Basi, Apelele Vekelepi, Nazim Francisco Bernisco with distinctions in industrial and economic sociology and in organizational psychology. Dimpo Silvia Bokopa. Alizwa Ngonyena Bunyonyo. Amanda Precious Butelezi with distinctions in English and organizational psychology. Jonathan Eric Campbell. Nomphumelelo Sinegugucele. Ngalawa Melody Chauke. Lavanya Chetty. Mateana Ritabile Chiloane with distinction in psychology. Akona Tibi. Emma Kathleen Cole with distinctions in psychology and sociology. Sinotolo Osi with distinction in history. Noula Lichalin Dili. Abigail Gillian Duplessis with distinction in psychology. Lindokuhle Blossom Jeshana. Kim Ellie Feltman. Alisa Lana Ferreira. Dinarte Paulo Ferreira. Siviwe Tina Gaika. Yolanda Halle. Subaira Faida Hassenberg. Lufezo Hempe. Akolile Justin Hina. Camilla Michelle Jackson. Aube Kira Jacobs. Nicole Nadine James. Sorry. Ms. Chancellor. apologize. I will recall the candidate back. He gave me a wrong name. Stand aside a little. Nicole Nadine James. Lashonda Renata Just. Please write your proper name. Go write your proper name and come back. Chuma Jibiliza with distinction in isiXhosa language acquisition. Senator Mbashon Jilana. Tanatso Rosemary Jingura. Rachel Melissa Jochens. Namhla Kalinjani. Azile Kamkam. Manyanani John Kamanga. Molly Kamanga. Kuzanai Nadine Katika. Devon Graham Kemp. Mihlali Kahlela. Shiremero Godwin Kosa. Londeka Amanda Kumalo. Olile Luto Kildase. Itumeleng Tapedi Komane. Mandi Sakona. Iko Kweleta. Pakamile Laurentia Ledwab. Bonolo Gladys Lelaka. Tsepo Letuela. Ababalwe Lubengu with distinction in psychology. Bongiwe Millicent Mabena. Noktaba Christina Mafu with distinctions in organizational psychology and sociology. Kululwa Hope Mahobiana. Mandisa Magufi. Kundai John Mahari. Zukanye Mahlaza. Nathan Maimba. Sinazo Makasi. Yalelwa Zizi po Makaula. Aviwe Makile. Sego Maseko. Katlego Gitumese Kutwano Mashilwane. Poloko Masiane. Angel Riabetse Mamohebedu Masilela. Karabo Masunya. Palmiran Kesani Matabela. Atenkosi Zolile Mazichana. Nkateko Nobukazi Mbele. Sipokazi Mbukwe. Kate Jenna McCain. Ntando Yotasa Mdunge. Tato Melesi. Yasipa Muginkri. Nomapelo Mkontwana. Maite Monwa with distinction in psychology. Simvuyele Mnyungula. Nkosi Ngiphile Wiseman Jali. Ipeleng Posha Moholane. Khomole Momleti. Bradley Wayne Monk with distinction in psychology. Tanyara Dzwa Moyo. Simamkele Sima Mpesho. Riake Ditwe Cecilia Mpesha. Rovarashe Ashley Mpofu with distinction in psychology. Kushle Luyolo Mklikwan. Refilwe Siamtanda Msidi. Angel Silindile Mtembo. Nonhlanhla Luyanda Mutetwa. Inga Mchingana. Rumbidzai Churai Rwe Mvududu. Dylan Maybeck. Chuma Mzansi. Muso Mzila. Sayen Naidu. Christine Namponya. Sesihle Naika. Charlotte Tembisi Lendaba. Bayolise Ndevu. Lucinda Ndiliso. Makabongwe Ndlovu. Liyema Nzipo. Lusani Leroy Nemaenje. Patuchedzo Shaddai Nesamvuni. Tembelani Knoetze. Sinotando Kanya Nkomonde. Demazane Nkosi. Ahlume Nkuhlu. Kagiso Ntabiseng Nobaza. Zanele Nondongwe. Sinazo Nota. Senzokuhle Ngabeni. Uyanda Tloko. Sipokazi Emantuli. Asemahle Sinaye Ntungwa. Tembaletu Ngumalo with distinction in organizational psychology. Fiona Simone Odaya with distinction in psychology. Tanaka Kimberly Pasipatorwa with distinction in psychology. George Caitlin Philander. Glenda Poswa with distinctions in linguistics and political and international studies. Veronique Ilse Pot. Siyolise Kupe. Hlumelo Kwakanisa. Humburani Ramuzangwi. Jasmine Nicole Roberts. Babalwa Kholinhlanhla. Ashai Rup. Maleboleng Senwamadi. Rebecca Mohansi Siko. Yonga Sikwebu. Lisa Kanya Lisa Tamia Simani. Puleng Sitebe. Melika Yasitole. Ntombikaise Mupoenhle Shamain Sitole. Yonwabisa Sizani. Zinati Zawosobuza. Dominic Stoffberg. Sibulele Teyi with distinction in industrial and economic sociology. Jessica May Theka. Oratile Manoko Tanza. Yolanda Coleta Tito. Liabona Chukwana. Nwabisa Nikitwana with distinctions in psychology and sociology. Kaylee Teresa Underhood. Chelsea Van Heerden with distinctions in psychology and sociology. John Paul Williams. Xabiso Xaba. Zintle Xayimpi. Bunolo Naledi Xakaza. Lwandle Yawa. Sipokazi Yolanda Zatu. Liam Jaron Agnew in human kinetics and econometrics. Sorry. Apologies, Ms. Chancellor. Ms. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Bachelor of Arts with Honors on the following candidates. Liam Jaron Agnew in human kinetics and econometrics. Chemily Megan Anthony with distinction in drama. Brittany Mercedes Barnes with distinction in journalism and media studies. Vincent Alexander Berry with distinction in psychology. Caitlin Nicole Bode with distinction in history. Okuhle Bokwana in political and international studies. Julia Constance Kathleen Bradford with distinction in psychology. Tembani Buka in African language studies. Micah Sunshine Kemp with distinction in classics. Ningi Anele in drama. Tolerate Hope Chilowane in journalism and media studies. Akash Priyesh Chiman in classics. Temwani Mabwe Chirambo in psychology. Naledi Uche Chue in drama. Bradley Clark Fisher with distinction in English. Sibahle Diliza in psychology. Andile Sakile Dlamini in industrial and economic sociology. Kirsten Lisa Dawkin with distinction in psychology. With distinction in philosophy. Sorry. Yomelela Sandisiwe Dubase in African language studies. Nobuhle Lin Dube in political and international studies. Sisanda Josini in African Language Studies. Jet Daniel Ellis George in Psychology. Awongwa Celu in Philosophy. Yolanda Yonela Gom in Organizational Psychology. Owetu Kola in Psychology. Tande Katumelo Gumede in Psychology. Martin Els Hall in Political and International Studies. Terry Catherine Harris in Human Kinetics and Econometrics. Jackie Nicholas Hoffenengel in Drama. Sune Jechens in Drama. Munsaka Alan Junza in Drama. Anne Sophie Kaiser with distinction in Psychology. Limo Sarah Katz in Psychology. Busisi Wetinyiko Koza in Industrial and Economic Sociology. Kerstin Rosemary Kingwill with distinction in Human Kinetics and Econometrics. Dawood Jonathan Krause in Industrial and Economic Sociology. Zoe Lensberg with distinction in philosophy. Tara Amanda Magna with distinction in classics. Ompemetse Gobisa Majenge in political and international studies. Lapumilanga Majola in linguistics and applied language studies. Luvo Mangabashana in African language studies. Amanda Mgaba in organizational psychology. Mandla Ryobaka Mulambo in political and international studies. Kiran Muloy in journalism and media studies. Lokomelo Retabile Muneti with distinction in political and international studies. Lesejo Angelina Munyai in Political and International Studies. Veronica Mashudundo in German Studies and Linguistics and Applied Language Studies. Jessica Helen Nell with distinction in Psychology. Ompulusa Luna Nengwekulu in Political and International Studies. Tubelinhle Nonhlanhla Ngcobo in Political and International Studies. Sinotando Ngobe in Development Studies. More Blessing Itani Mwanamindwa with distinction in Sociology. Gwenisna Mava Pai in African Language Studies. Abigail N. Petrie in English. Brianna Perdon in Linguistics and Applied Language Studies. Petoho Providence Ramuhaba in Political and International Studies. Katatso Ramakabere Tamelo Rapu in Drama. Ethan John Pule Sebakwane in Anthropology. Chikondi Sepula in Computer Science. Susie Ndaundika Shefeni with distinction in Political and International Studies. Matimu Shivambu in Political and International Studies. Siboniwe Siko in For now, you can brighten the corner where you are. Just remain seated. We will be connected soon. Thank you very much. Siboniwe Siko in organizational psychology. Zisanda Solwandle in political and international studies. Oyama Soyamba with distinction in organizational psychology. Mary Jean Yola Steenbeck with distinction in psychology. Tamunutim Kashinde Sukubo in organizational psychology. Anda Tanga in African language studies. Ruth Sarah Taylor in psychology. Ntlati Tlale in human kinetics and econometrics. Sanele Tlali in drama. Mazi Tabiso Makaziwe Tom in linguistics and applied language studies. Mukonazote Queen Tsedu in organizational psychology. Niko Zizipo Kakamba Tsotsi in drama. Avusheni Chala in sociology. SRC. That's the current SRC president. Asipezinhle Otando Chu in development studies. Brinley Van Ant with distinction in political and international studies. Daniel van der Merwe in journalism and media studies. Nandi Filion in psychology. Joshua Jean Foslo with distinction in psychology. Penelope Paidamoyo Yafele in development studies. Atenkosi Nandimpiwe Yekani in organizational psychology. Evstragios really Zaccharelis with distinction in classics and history. Babazile Jessica Lerato Zondi, with distinction in development studies. Ms. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Master of Arts on the following candidates: Daniela Joanne Augustine, with distinction in clinical psychology. Sipuxolo Bikwe, in counseling psychology. Paige Samantha Cox, in linguistics and applied language studies. Tamarisk Ray Glogo, with distinction in drama. Siyabulela Nosipiwo Javu, with distinction in drama. Grace Kemirembe, in political and international studies. Zikomborero Maziananga, in political and international studies. Nokulunga Nomatamsanga Ngongwane, with distinction in drama. Siyanda Buile Shabalala, with distinction in clinical psychology. Marina Slabet, in counseling psychology. Yolanda Soji, in drama. Siposihle Wochela, in philosophy. Ms. Chancellor, I have the honor to request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy on the following candidates: Kim Elise Baker, in psychology. The highly innovative study, this thesis which explores the impact of participating in an anti-rape protest, listening to and thinking with the narratives of victim survivors, is described as a highly innovative study which utilized a critical, engaged activist ethnography to investigate participation in the silent protest at Rhodes University. The focus of this thesis was to foreground victim survivor stories about the impact of their involvement in the anti-rape protest. This work offers important insights into what collective movements must offer us in thinking about dealing with and hearing from the trauma of sexual violence. It does so by challenging the victim versus survivor binary and the ways in which those who have experienced rape and sexual violence are often reduced to their suffering. In this thesis, the recognition of sexual violence as a social-political issue, which requires a collective response, works to demonstrate how activism can contribute to a process of healing and offers the possibility of a preferred identity. Sharon Gabi in anthropology. As Chancellor, I'm still learning Afrikaans, and so I will ask for now, for progress' sake, for her to read the title of the thesis. Please read.
The title of the thesis is Azit Hulaikala, Kom ons Twa, which means to have a conversation, to discuss, a South African Khoisan narrative.
Thank you. South Africa's racialized past obliterated and invisibilized the lives of Kho and San peoples in South Africa. In this thesis, Gabi tells the various stories of contemporary Kho and San peoples and their fight for inclusion and recognition in political and linguistic ways. A sensitive and respectful engagement with their interlocutors across a 7-year period produced a nuanced understanding of how Kho and San reclaim and remake indigenous knowledge as a response to a continued marginalization in democratic South Africa. Tapelo Mukwatsi. In history, Tapelo's thesis, titled Friends of Four of the People, So Musane, the life of the late 19th to 20th centuries South African political politician and journalist, explores the ways in which this historic figure, Saul Msane, was central to the founding members of the as part of the founding members of the South African Native National Congress, which later became the ANC. Accused of selling out workers' interest near the end of his life, Msane was later vindicated for giving reasonable warning about the ability of the South African state to crush resistance. Mokwatsi makes skillful use of sparse documents and resources available to him to reconstruct the multiple layers of Msane's personality as an early Christian elite who used writing and politics to build a more equitable South African society.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor of presenting to you Mr. Jan Jonathan Knoetze, a senior lecturer in the Department of Psychology in the Faculty of Humanities, for the Vice-Chancellor's Distinguished Senior Award for teaching in the category of more than 10 years experience. The Vice-Chancellor's Distinguished Senior Teaching Award is made annually to an individual with more than 10 years of experience teaching at this university who has demonstrated to a panel of peers that their work as an academic teacher is truly exceptional. The award is meant to recognize and celebrate excellence, innovation, and dedication in and to teaching. Mr. Knoetze completed his M.Ed in psychology at the University of Stellenbosch in 1992, and he's currently registered for a PhD at Nelson Mandela University. He has several other qualifications, including a diploma in data metrics, a higher diploma in education, and a BA honors in psychology. In his 24 years of being at Rhodes University, he has taught at every level with enthusiasm and passion. He has contributed immensely to the academic project in the Clinical Psychology Master's Program. Jan's teaching is underpinned by the belief that learning is not a passive act of receiving knowledge, but rather it takes place in a mutual space between a teacher and students through active dialectical engagement with learning materials that focus on particular content area within a discipline. He sums up the impetus for his pedagogic choices as follows, and I quote, "In a time where the decolonizing of knowledge is foregrounded in South African higher education, the relevance of psychology debate is pertinent, deeply entrenched within individualistic Western philosophy. Psychology faces many challenges to move from an elitist private consulting room model to be accessible and relevant to the South African communities that need mental health services the most," close quote. This reflection makes him an exemplary teacher who constantly asks himself how to improve his work. Jan adopts a pedagogical approach that encourages his students to argue a position, even if it contradicts what he presents to them as the lecturer. He prioritizes active engagement in his classes by incorporating discussions and debates where students are encouraged to engage critically with knowledge. The reviewers of his portfolio found Jan to be a complete teacher who engages and cares deeply for his students and their well-being. He epitomizes context-relevant teaching in that he understands his place in space and time, both proximally and distally, and uses his own experiences, thus forging a real human connection with his students. He comes across as very calm in the classroom, which has the same effect on his students. However, it is the evidence from students and peers that allows us to judge the efficacy of a particular set of beliefs held by an academic, and I therefore quote some of the students who have testified to the way his work has made a difference to their chances of success in their studies. One student had this to say about Mr. Knoetze and one of his courses, I quote, "I just want to add that our lecturer, Jan, is amazing, very caring, helpful, and understanding. He executed his course perfectly, and I have no recommendations to change it." Close quote. What Jan's past students remember is not subject content, but the personal values they learned. He feels that what counts for students, just as for children in therapy, is not the brilliance and insight of the therapist or teacher, but the experience of being heard, being seen, being listened to, and being understood. A reviewer attending Jan's lectures for the master's program also had this to say. It became apparent that he is exceptional in teaching and practice in his field. His experience in professional practice continuously feeds into his teaching and supports the theory enriching the students. He is fully aware of and takes this unique and particular opportunity very seriously to positively impact this country through his mentorship of students as they become professional practitioners in the community. According to the reviewers, Jan is aware that in the current higher education environment, particularly for undergraduate students, it is as essential to know who you are teaching, that is the students, and their diversity, and their potential as well as their problems, as what you are teaching, that is the subject that you're teaching or the curriculum. He is further aware that lecturers need to do considerable remedial work, not just recognizing learning gaps, but also understanding and empathizing with their students. Beyond that, lecturers must be active agents of transformation, starting with themselves, he says. Jan argues that education is not just therapy, but could be therapeutic, especially in these times of high anxiety, extreme loss, and high levels of grief in our society and in our student population. He says that what counts in teaching is not the measurable achievements of the teacher, but the impact the teacher has on students and through students in the broader community. In his acknowledgement of the transformation imperatives of higher education in this country, Jan writes, "I'm deeply aware of the changing demographic of our student population, of my own identity as an originally Afrikaans, aging, heterosexual, white man, and also the immense differences between my experiences of the world and those of the majority of the students in my class. And of course, to use a narrative therapy construct, how I would like to conduct myself." One reviewer was impressed by how Jan could talk around a topic demonstrating deep knowledge and masterfully weaving various, sometimes conflicting, academic views relating to his lecture content. This reviewer felt that the students were highly privileged to attend lectures presented with sincerity and passion by someone humble yet masterful in understanding the content and sharing this knowledge. The same sincerity and deep reflection were found in Jan's responses to the panel during the interview leading to this award. Mr. Knoetze is a scholarly teacher who has over 60 publications in accredited journals as well as conference proceedings, and has supervised close to 30 honors and master's students. He shares his vast experience in the field to draw students in, fostering curiosity and encouraging them to co-create knowledge. He is cognizant and respectful of all the different intersectionalities of the students present in his classroom. He is also able to create safe spaces where his students can express themselves without fear or favor. He truly listens, he hears, and responds with wisdom and care. This is what ultimately convinced the reviewers to recommend Jan for this award. Mr. Chancellor, it is an honor to request you to award the 2022 Vice-Chancellor's Distinguished Senior Teaching Award to Mr. Jan Jonathan Knoetze.
I also confer degrees on those candidates named in the program who are in absentia. Please rise for the National Anthem. By virtue of the authority vested in me, I dissolve this congregation of Rhodes University.
Oh Zingwe